I experienced premature ejaculation for more than 5 years, but the first few times when I started to have sex, I didn't know that was exactly a thing, like it was a problem. And this was because I didn't have idea of which one's supposed to be the normal timing for having sex. And for the girl, as she was a virgin as well, she didn't know that either. This pee problem wasn't exactly a thing, it was just kinda odd that I wasn't able to last that long from time to time, but no more than that. Unfortunately, I ended up paying the price for that ignorance or innocence, if you want to call it like that. The ignorance of not knowing which one was actually a healthy and satisfactory sex duration. And I never addressed that problem until it was already too late, leaving the girl that I was with back then and the others that would come in the future with a lot of frustration and disgust. And all this came from the fact that I didn't know the answer to that question. How long should sex last? And today I want to answer that question for you. My name is Jesus Noya and I help men to last longer in bed, become sexually dominant and be more attractive. All this will avoid the deadly mistakes that I made through my sex life. This comes from my medical background of being a medicine student and 5 years of struggling with things like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and non-existent sexual confidence. Today I want to save you from the pain of wondering if you're actually lasting enough in bed, if you're actually giving pleasure to your partner, or if you're just a disappointment. I want to help you to have a clear point of reference for which one's supposed to be the right sex performance, so you can achieve that kind of sex god masculine vibe that a lot of men crave. And just very quick, if you're experiencing things like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and if you want to accelerate the process for you to become a sex god, go and click the link in the description right now. That way we can work together on making that reality as soon as possible for you. But now let's jump to the video. There are 3 main points that we're gonna cover so we can tell which one is actually the right timing for sex. How long should sex last? Because I could tell you like it could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or a specific time, but to be honest it's just not that simple. There's a lot of factors that plays an important role during sex and the timing. And if you don't have the full picture, it's just going to screw things up. So I'm gonna cover very quick which one is the average duration of all men, how is that reflected into reality, and finally which one I personally think that is the best timing. I'm not exactly a person of showing up a bunch of studies when it comes to sex. And this isn't because I don't believe in science or I like to read, right? I actually spend a lot of time reading and making a lot of research around sex, like trying to see the most important scientific studies. But to be honest, the conclusion was always kinda weak. If you see Masters and Johnson in the 60s, for example, that couple was like the first one putting a lot of effort in making scientific studies around sex. And they were treated like perverts back then. Because if you think about it, if you want to make a very specific study from the behaviors that happen during sex, you have to like be there when people is making it or try to control all the factors, and that's kinda awkward, except if you like that. But in general, it's really difficult. So my personal approach to taking consideration which one are the facts or the right things, I go through science. The fact that it doesn't have enough strong studies doesn't mean that I'm going to take them in consideration at all. The things that I've seen or heard the most, because after seeing for example like 50 different women from different countries having the same opinion, I think that keeps some truth in it that's worth to keep in mind. And think about my own intuition and experiences, meaning the last one, the things that I already tried or live by myself. And this is how I'm going to judge which one should be the timing in sex. So different recent studies, I'm talking about like from the 2000s until this year, say that the average for sex duration is around 5 to 15 minutes. And when I say 15 minutes, actually on the higher end, like there's a percentage that reach there, but it's very difficult to find. The general average is just like 7 minutes to 10 minutes and 10 minutes as maximum. This is the normal range. However, when you think about it, normal isn't necessarily good. And this isn't only around sex. When we talk about the average or what is normal in general, is usually pretty crap. Just think about the health of the normal or average people. They're all sick, but as that's the majority, then we take that as normal, as the average. The same happened with the finances. The majority of people is broke or working a job that they hate. Same with relationships, and even with happiness, it's like normal or average now to be depressed. And as that is the status quo, when we see someone in that position, we just say, oh no, he's normal, that's how it's supposed to be. That's very far from reality in my opinion. With this we know, and I'll say it again, normal or average isn't good or right or healthy. For example, the Kinsey's report was a report in sexual behaviors around the 40s and the 50s, and back then the average for sex duration was 2 minutes. Only 2 minutes, for real, I'm not joking. And it's important to remember that most of this sex duration is actually because of men. Men have the responsibility on that because when they finish, when they come, it's already done, right? And it's very interesting seeing which one was the reality for women around those times, at least sexually. As a fun fact, hysteria, a medical condition where women used to act like crazy, was very prevalent just right before the sexual revolution, and that was around the time when the report was made. And I'm quoting this from a study: hysteria was in fact a major form of neurotic illness in Western societies during the 19th century and remains so up to World War II. During a lot of time, people knew that hysteria was related to the genitalia of women. I remember reading some time ago that they were putting like plants in the pelvis of a woman expecting for that to be cured. But the most funny part to me was when I realized that as science and technology was just improving and getting ahead, people started to realize like, okay, if the hysteria is something that is probably hiding in the uterus of a woman, we need to make something that is able to reach to that point and stimulate it so the hysteria can be gone. So a medical procedure was invented where if women were suffering hysteria, they were sent to the doctor and the doctor would put this device in so the hysteria could like go out or disappear. And this was a recurrent treatment for some women. And this is the story of how the first vibrators were invented. A couple of years after, people started to realize that a lot of the hysteria came also from sexual frustration, and that's why vibrators and dildos were something that was very useful in those occasions. And my point with this is that when the reality for men was that they were lasting just 2 minutes, women were having a medical condition that was very prevalent that came from their sexual frustration. So we can see that sex duration is something that can really affect women. Actually, just after the sexual revolution, hysteria started to go down in the whole world, and a lot of things happened after the sexual revolution, but that's a topic for our next video. So if the average before was only 2 minutes and now it's 5 or 10, being even 5 times more than before, then things should be okay and sexual satisfaction should go up, right? Actually, most women are still very sexually frustrated. Most women keep faking orgasms, cheating is through the sky, and unhappiness in relationships, and especially around sex, is very prevalent. And the time in bed is not the only thing that plays a role in that, but it is certainly a factor of those things. So to finally answer, which one should be the time then? Which one is actually a good sexual duration? In my personal opinion, should be as much as you want, and in the perfect case, as much as you want and as much as she wants. And if you don't last in that range, then that's something that we need to work on. And some started to say like, yeah, 11 minutes is good, 10 minutes is good, 12 is more than enough. But the reality is that when you last less than a woman wants or less than you want, you're still gonna be unhappy. It's not going to be satisfactory, and how much you all want can vary a lot depending on the factors. I met people that had sessions from around like 5 hours, and others having super satisfactory sessions from around 5 minutes. This is because sex is about the quality and not the quantity. It doesn't matter how long it is if it's not good enough. It doesn't matter if you last 30 minutes, 1 hour or 2 hours if the whole session is just like boring, crappy and lame. Women are going to try to finish the whole thing as soon as possible. But to be honest, this is more the exception because a lot of men can't control their ejaculation, and that's one of the factors of why sex is crap. And that's an extent when sex lasts too little, I would say anything under 5 minutes for example, is already disappointing because to be honest, there's not that much that you can do in 3, 4 or 5 minutes if you really think about it. Having the best sex or high quality sex in just 1 minute is almost impossible, and this is a general rule. That's why having control of how much you want to last is so important. Even with this, there are times where sex can last like way less, like with quickies for example. If you do it with someone in a public place, you don't want to necessarily prolong the thing as much as possible, right? You want to keep it like in a sweet short amount of time. That's why I say that the right timing for sex and how long should sex actually last is as much as you want and as much as she wants. And if I have to save a time, I would save anything above 15 minutes plus 15 minutes, but especially plus 20 or 30 minutes, that's when we're talking, right? At least from what I've seen from experience. Obviously, as always, with the highest quality possible. For a lot of men, lasting this much or learning how to control their ejaculation totally is something very difficult. But that is because they don't put intention on that. They don't work to improve themselves. So they get used to have this kind of like lazy ass, bitchy and lame sex. But for you, now that you have this information, now that you know which one is supposed to be the goal, now you have way more control on reaching to that point and unlocking a beautiful and fulfilling sex life. And that's what I really wish for you. Now remember that if you want to learn to last last as much as you want, having total control of your ejaculation, unlocking that kind of sex god performance, you can go and click the link in the description right now so we can be in contact so that you can start to have the best sex in your life. So remember, go and click the link in the description and get in contact with me. But besides that, man, I really hope this helps you, and I'll see you later. Bye.